So on this TikTok thing, right, which is a game that I was very late to, so I'm still kind of like fascinated by some of the posts that I see or whatever they're called. Anyway, right, some of these readers that I see and hear often speak about karmics and a lot of what may be perceived to be conspiratorial subject matters such as inheritance and people's families doing them over. And I'm like, okay, it sounds okay, but like everyone says it. There's a collective consciousness when it comes to this karmics thing. So I just wanted to like clear up for myself, and if anyone else hears this, fine. But really, I'm just uploading to TikTok so that I have a future reference that doesn't take up my own storage space, essentially. But what happens with karmics, in my experience, is this. Now, we speak of karmics as though it's outside of this world or something that you need a gift to access to understand what a karmic is. But the living world is completely mirrored by the dead world. I don't even know if that's a word that's going to be censored or not, but it's a reality. Like people do like all this unalive stuff. No. They conk out completely. But like their spirit continues, but it also means that they can occupy other physical bodies as well, right? So with these karmics, we concentrate so much on the idea of karma, that figure of eight. We don't consider that it's also a mix up of a word as well. There's a phonic connotation that goes with that. And karmic, when you rearrange the letters and you identify phonically, it's mix up, it's mixer, it's mixer. And the K itself, sorry, yeah, so mixer, yeah. The K itself, when it comes to spiritual communication, for me anyway, refers to that first point. So basically where everyone has in common that one time that goes back in an arrow that way, can't do it, yeah, like that, of a K, basically is saying go back to that point in time. Time being the construct, but go back to that marker, whether that be a genetic marker, whether that be a mark in emotion, that impression, that place, that space, that person, that thing, etc. And with karmics, those that are considered to be the pesky little pests of the psychic world, which is pretty similar to being a mischievous elf in the world of fantasy, or just an a-hole in general life. Really, what they are is, let me just go back a moment. In death, or in the realm of the unalive, okay, the way that they collect and connect to each other, regardless of whether they actually want to be connected or not, is essentially through thought, and that becomes a collective consciousness. And so you have like these buckets, if you like, of thought. And some people have regrets. So they all go into one bucket. Most people have a regret to some degree. It all goes into one bucket. Then it's what they did. Or rather, yeah, what they did, how many times they did it. And in this karmic they're spin doctors essentially, in this karmic transitioning, all the people who ever regretted stuff have this one bucket of communication to those that they want to move into or onto. And and in order to successfully move on to the space that these karmics want to, they essentially create evolutionary terms that will take them into the space that they want to be in, whilst denying what it is that got them to the space that they're actually in. What I mean by that is this, right? So the difference between a karmic and someone who is reincarnating is this. The one who's reincarnating will take responsibility for whatever it is they've done. They will take accountability, and it will take longer for them to re-emerge as the being that they want to be, because these karmics, they're cute. They will adjust what is received through senses, because they all move at different vibratory levels. Even though regret is the blanket, the types of lifestyles that they have led will show the difference between them. And the more virtuous, and I don't mean this as in, oh, it's a good or bad, but those who are considered more virtuous generally veer towards doing the right thing, which is taking personal responsibility. Whereas a karmic will jump and ride every wave and head that they possibly can to escape what it is that they know that they should be held accountable for, but they're just running so they don't get caught, right? So these karmics, basically, here's an example. I have said before, I don't like dark people. And someone who is considered virtuous, and this is another difference that you'll get, someone who is considered, yeah, virtuous, would ask why, or ask further, for further elaboration, so that it can be fully clarified as to what I meant by that. A karmic, because they see an opportunity to swap places with you, i.e., you will be hated more than me for what you've just said. Not rather what I've heard, not what you've said, what I've heard. So you can take my place and I'm going to jump ahead of you and I'm going to literally leapfrog you and take the opportunities that I know are sitting there for you, because it's a two-way thing. And so the karmics are coming back from what they already know of you going into. And that's another reason why virtuous people tend to take a lot longer to come out of that space of being unalive, because the karmics have run ahead and have already seen what's going to happen for this person that they're now coming back into. These karmics are people that you already know. So you know them at one level. When you die, you know them at the lower level, and then the lower, and then the lower, and then the lower. But these karmics have already ascended to, how do I put it? When you go down, a karmic might come up depending upon their success upon the plane they were on. But sometimes you always meet at some stage, but whether you recognize them or not is another thing. But because they were coming up as you went down, they'd already come down. So they're like, you don't recognize me, but I know that you're in to win the lottery in 2020, whatever. So if I distract you from that, then I can take your place, essentially is what happens. But anyway, back to this, I don't like dark people. So a karmic seizing the opportunity will be like, she said she doesn't like black people. Now, obviously, it's not obvious, but like, the way I look, it probably wouldn't be something that would stand up too well. But if the voice was what was the only thing that was used, if it had been extracted from what was considered an impression of me without seeing me, and a karmic said they don't like black people, and then someone heard my voice, it may be that people would assume, based upon my voice, that I was white. And if they assumed that I was white, and then they assumed that there was privilege with that, because there is a bit of a poshness to the accent when I choose for it to be, then they may have a picture in their heads as to what it is that I look like. And therefore, the moment they hear me and see me, they don't attach the two, because the karmic has already divided and removed the visual impression from the sound impression. But that sound impression sits in the subconscious of those who hear it. And so this karmic will run ahead and be like, they don't like black people. So then when that voice comes up, then people are like, I don't like that person. I don't know why I don't like them, but I just don't like them. And then that virtuous person, I'm not saying I'm the virtuous person, but I am. But that person doesn't get a fair chance because they've already been pegged because of this karmic, right? But anyway, so these karmics is another reason why I'm recording this, because I had this woman come through, right? And it's insane. It's insane what these people have done to her, right? So these karmics placed themselves as her family when she was descending and they had been ascending. So they already had the news of who she was, what she did, what she was capable of, and what she was going to achieve on her return back, on her Saturnian journey back to being alive, basically. So they thought they'd become her family on their way up, her way down, so that they could basically gain whatever material wealth that they thought that she would leave to them when she died, because they were aware of her death before she died, right? But what they did, this is dark, right? What they did is this woman, they knew roughly when she was going to die, or when she was going to leave that particular plane of existence. And so it was arranged that she would be conditioned mentally before departing for many, many years, because she was considered to have a strong mind, but they needed to break it so that doubt would be there, so that when she went back down and she met the other version of them that was coming back up, she would, one, not recall, two, not feel strong enough to confront something that she had doubt in, because she'd been gaslighted her entire time with these people. And so they were really, really like banking on this, right? So before she passed, this is cute. They knew that she had wealth set aside, and they knew that they weren't going to inherit it as her family. And so what they did was they basically conditioned her to be somewhat family orientated, but she still knew, she still had something like, nah, there's something not right about this. And her religion was something that they certainly capitalized on. So they basically brought in a guy to like pretend to be a pastor so that she would sign away her deeds and wealth to, if not the family, then the church. But either which way, they were all going to get it anyway. They were all going to get a share. And they were successful to a degree with that. She didn't leave a huge amount, like windfall, but it was life-changing for those who did receive it. And this is why I'm recording this, by the way. So this woman comes in and she was telling me the story, and she's like, yeah. And what they did, and Okay, before I go back into it, basically, like every once in a while, I get, do you have a card? Do you have a card? And I'm like, what the fucking name? Like, from people, from random people, and this is spirit speaking through people. These are the karmics speaking through people, because karmics will descend upon people who share the same experiences as them. Okay, because karmic soup, it's literally a soup. Everyone's got a problem, but if we all have one big bucket of regret, then everyone kind of has to take on other people's stuff to get home, essentially, like literally cutting those cords and untangling all this stuff, but you have to go through that murky stuff, right? So these karmics will speak through people every once in a while. And there was a time there where I was getting, do you have a card? Do you have a card? Now, I shan't go into the story that I'd told before I'd started hearing, do you have a card? But this certainly does link into what it is I'm about to say, right? And what I'd been witnessing was the woman at her actual death. They drugged her. They drugged her, essentially. They put, one of them, I had two women come. One woman, they put weed into her tea. She was quite a kind of herbalist woman. She wasn't up to speed with how herbs worked, but she was quite holistic. She quite liked sort of natural remedies, and she was elderly as well. And so her son, who had decided that he was going to take care of her in her later years, in his bid to get money before she died and basically released it to everyone but him, he doped her tea. He put weed in her tea, and she got really, really drowsy. And that was what I was hearing. The question, do you have a card? Do you have a card? Because he knew that she'd hidden money, essentially. And her having that weed in her tea, she eventually did tell him, because she had no control over her faculties. But also she fell down the stairs because of the drugging. And when she was in the hospital, like, she was proper busted up. And when she was in the hospital, they put it down to her old age. And so they didn't detect anything because they didn't test for it. And so she's like, yeah, I'm coming back now. I'm coming back, and I know exactly what you've have done, right? And then another one was saying, they did the same thing to me. They did the same thing to me, except for me, they put crack in mine. But I'm like, how can you like not taste that? Not that I know what it tastes like, but I'm like, how can that not happen? She's like, no. This is how they do it. The karmics on the way up. Remember when I was speaking about this evolutionary language, right? So on the way up, everything has a derivative. You know, when they say, oh, Coca-Cola's got Coke in it. And, you know, like poppy seed bread apparently is banned in some countries because of the poppy, and poppies being the source of heroin, apparently, right? They use this, right, as a way to pay it forward. And so the karmics that are trying to come up, the stuff that they've done, you could have a karmic who perhaps their regret was like spending their whole time smoking crack. But then you could also have a granny in that same regret mix who had a cigarette and felt the same repulsion as those who might have for smoking crack, those who don't smoke crack. Do you know what I mean? Like, she had the same, it was all relative. And so the regrets met, even though she hadn't done what this karmic had done, right? But this karmic, knowing that she hadn't done what they'd done, but had felt the same way about what she had done, even though she'd done it once, was able to swap places with her, take her place, because he was able to ride that wave of regret a lot longer, because that virtuosity, is that a word, that the woman had, meant that she was not happy, but would sit in that suffering, if you know what I mean. Whereas he was like, hell no, I'm off. Later, enjoy your regret, enjoy your remorse, and mine. Right, so anyway. So these two grannies came through and they're like, we were there for a long time. You were almost successful. But here's the thing, right? We know now. We know, and we have a medium who can flip and tell it like it is. We know, right? So I'm like, wow, this is amazing, right? So so the one with the crack was telling me, yeah, what they did, right? It would be like, oh, Granny makes lots of cakes. Granny, would you make us a sponge cake, right? So she's like, okay, cool. So she'd make loads of cakes. And it was like, they were putting it in the flour. So flour in Granny's world was literally just flour, like literally just what you put in a cake. Bicarbonate of soda, just what you put in a cake. Even blue tack, like seriously, all the normal things that Granny had, right? That Granny thought was normal. They were basically like in their heads, like, she'll never know that, but that's in my world, right? That's Coke. Yeah, that blue tack, that's heroin. Yeah, those bags, those food bags that she's putting our food in. Yeah, we all know what that's carrying. Like, so basically what they were doing was leaving what they had experienced in their worlds with Granny and Granny's actions. So every time Granny was making a cake, she was in effect paying their karma for the stuff that they'd done, right? So this one, the one who had the weed now, right? She's like, yeah, and I'd be gardening, right? Oh my God. I don't even, it's not even funny. It's really bad. That's probably why I'm laughing, right? And she's like, they put in every flower, like they literally put everything in, like my flowers, my herbs and spices. And so that's why they were saying to me, that's why when we came through you, you started to lose your sensation when it came to food and when it came to like pretty things, because we were aware at that stage of what they'd done to it. They'd completely changed our perception of the very few things that we took joy from, and they took that joy and moved on with it. Like, so I'm like, whoa, this is like really bad. Like, and they're like, yeah, it flipping is. We want you to tell them, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. But what does telling them do? And they're like, this is where it gets beautiful. So with this mirroring and the likes of TikTok, literally TikTok, time's on the clock, right? They're like, we did our time. We did our time. We didn't just do our time as in the duration of what we did, but how many times, right? So they're like, see, now it's our time for karma, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. What's going on, right? So they're like, see, we saved ours. We saved ours. And this isn't about like, oh, it's going to be life and death and hell for you. We know what's coming. But the thing is, though, we've taken the strength from what you did to us and we know what our stuff is. We own it. That's how much we know it. So your ideas of what it is that you thought you were dropping off on us are completely gone now, because we know. When I say that I'm baking a cake, that's flour. And there's no one that can tell me otherwise, because I do my stuff. I applied each and every time that mantra. I'm putting my flour in my cake. Equal flour, equal butter, equal sugar. They know their stuff. They do it themselves. And this is the difference between karmics and those who are about to reincarnate, right? So they're like, we did ours. And that means that you, when you're coming back down, you have to do the same in order to even get a chance to get back through that gate. You have to do the same. So this is why it's beautiful, right? So I'm like, okay, well, tell me the beautiful bit. They're like, Chanel, go and get a vape. I'm like, what? I smoke cigarettes, but I've never smoked a vape. And they're like, exactly. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, go get a vape. 1 second, right? Yeah, so, right, I got the vape. And I'm like, I don't know what you want to do with this. And they're like, it's all right, you'll see, right? So on my walk back from this vape, I'm like, look, I'll smoke cigarettes, but there was something I would felt aversion to when it came to vapes, because I'm also aware of that karmic link. And I know that it'd been attached to crack at some stage. And they're like, exactly. Because these karmics also use words, as I've said, as a way to alter and create derivatives or work derivatives on the way back up. And my name, I know, is certainly used, because when it comes to the gates and mirrors, the L's are converted to a 1. And it means one side or the other. Which one, right? And my name's used like that so much spiritually that I've gotten so used to it. But I find it quite entertaining, because I know that I'm a challenge, because I'm like, yeah, I saw you do it, I heard you do it, but you're not coming through. Like, so like, exactly. And the church thing that I was speaking about earlier, in terms of the religious aspects of these virtuous people. One thing that I've learned throughout my time in the spiritual realms is church itself doesn't have to be that place of dogma or religion. It really is where you give most of your time to. You can sit in a church on a Sunday all you want, but if you spend 60 hours a week watching porn, which is extreme, I know, but that's essentially your church, and that is what you will receive as your blessings on your way back down. And it becomes the hell on your way back down because of it not actually being a blessing, right? But anyway, so that is what you're given. You're bestowed. It is bestowed upon you that which you have given in. You get out what you put in. I'm getting all mixed up here. Must be that karmic loop. But anyway, right? So they were saying, yeah. They weren't saying this. I was saying this at this stage. I was like, I've always wondered why this comes up, because I get a lot of narc heads, like a lot. But because these vibrations that I experience are from those who are at the end of their lives, and therefore that bucket of regret. The initials in my name become buckets of less and less desirable things. So because they're coming on their way back through my name, those 2 L's with the one or the other, they get through that, and then the E is the spiral. It's like, I'm getting out, cool. It's either getting out or coming in. They're getting out, right? And then it's like, their biggest regret, narcotics. So that's the big bucket with the shan bit, right? And then it's like narcotics, and then CHA, but it's going AHC on the way back. So it's narcotics, alcohol, heroin, crack, right? So I'm like, oh, for crying out loud, right? Gee, leave me alone. Which is why I see so many like flipping drugged up people. It's beyond belief. Half of them are actually in like regular human bodies, but they're just messed up, like proper drugged up, right? So these grannies are like, yeah, we know our stuff now. We know our stuff. We're cooking our cakes. We're tending to our gardens. But this is the one thing. This is the one thing that's going to bomb the blood clot out of you people. Why is that? Because we hold time. We did our time and we hold yours. And so when we do this, it means that everything, the one thing that you regret, the one thing you regret comes back to you. It doesn't just come back to you as the one thing you regret, but everything along that line, along that series comes back to you as an individual regret of the same one damn thing. And we know what it is because you've gotten to Chanel and you've already done the narcotics, you've already done the alcohol, right? So those two ones, you only have to do something twice for it to be complete. You've got two ends, right? Those two ones. So it doesn't matter which choice you made, whether it was crack or heroin, this is your fucking mistake, right? We've already covered our cakes. We've covered our gardens. We covered you spiking our tea. Now we're going to do it through Chanel. So Chanel, this is your first time ever, because that's what those karmics want to get back to. They want to get back to their first time ever. But if you do this, then it means that it hits their second time, which means they have to go around the full circle from beginning to end for what they've done. So Chanel, we want it done. We want it done properly. Record it. This is the first time ever I've ever bought a vape, ever smoked a vape, and probably the only time because like I've had to endure so much crap from other people. But whether it is or isn't is immaterial. I know that I hold the keys to these people's karma. So the judge speaks. Oh, it's like kind of sweet. So there you go, grannies. It's done. And they're like, yay! So basically, flour goes back to being flour. Bicarbonate of soda goes back to being bicarbonate of soda. Blue tack goes back to being blue tack. The showers, the fire extinguishers, all the things that have those underlying euphemisms that you think that people can't detect because we are considered to be somewhat spiritual. Yeah, laters.